across the harsh African savanna. African wild dogs move silently in a perfectly coordinated hunting formation. They may not be the strongest predators, but they are true masters of strategy, boasting one of the highest hunting success rates in the wild. Today, join us as we explore the breathtaking moments of survival from one of the most united predators on Earth. One begins to wild dogs that launch a stubborn giant with a powerful build and razor-sharp horns is always a formidable challenge on the savanna hunt, thanks to entire survival instinct of unity. Yet even that raw power can be tested when it encounters one of nature's greatest tactical hunters, the African wild dog. And what follows is a clash between brute strength and relentless strategy on one side stands a lone powerhouse capable of charging through danger, while on the other is a disciplined pack moving with incredible speed. Rather than confront in a heart-pounding chase across the open plains, the African wild dog pack works in flawless coordination to bring down a massive wildebeest, capitalizing on their remarkable speed and stamina as they deliver repeated, calculated bites to vulnerable areas that rapidly drain their prey's strength. And under the pressure of a siege with no escape, the towering grazer of the savanna ultimately collapses utterly powerless before the pack's brutal collective force. Spreading out in formation with frightening persistence, the pack of wild dogs relentlessly pursues the antelope, draining its strength along a deadly path of exhaustion. Despite its impressive size and power, the prey ultimately collapses under the relentless layers of turning itself into a living fortress. The antelope unleashes thunderous back kicks and swings its razor-sharp horns to drive away every wave of attack. Against this solid wall of defense, the pack of wild dogs, the zebra is a symbol of speed marked by its iconic stripes and armed with a devastating rear kick capable of delivering lethal force. Although the dogs rely on relentless pursuit, a zebra can still force them to retreat with well-timed crushing kicks. The zebra strikes fear into the wild dog pack by boldly counterattacking with thunderous rear kicks and savage bites. Its sheer aggression shatters the encirclement, forcing the relentless predators to scatter and pull back. At the water's edge, as a pack of wild dogs closes in to kill a helpless antelope, a zebra suddenly charges in to intervene. Using its powerful body and crushing kicks, the zebra drives the predators back in a dramatic confrontation. In Londolozi, the wild dog pack is seen simultaneously chasing a zebra while aggressively stealing a kill from a leopard. Overwhelmed by sheer numbers and relentless pressure, the leopard is forced to retreat and surrender its prey. Along the forest edge, a fierce pack of wild dogs surges forward aggressively, driving a herd of zebras out of the territory. Faced with the predator's determination, the zebras choose to pull back and avoid a deadly confrontation. Beneath the scorching sun of the blazing savanna, the wild dogs move in like silent gray phantoms, spreading fear through the zebra herd. The thunder of hooves shatters the stillness as a breathless chase unfolds between survival and death. Baboons stand as arrogant rulers of the savanna, armed with sharp intelligence and canine teeth longer than those of a leopard. Yet even their ferocity is put to the test when they face the ruthless pack tactics of African wild dogs. On one side are cunning, powerful primates. On the other, a disciplined hunting machine. This clash is not merely a fight for territory, but a brutal anthem of survival played out on the open plains. A tense standoff unfolds between the wild dog pack and the baboons, with both sides exercising extreme caution. Rather than launching an attack, they hold a careful distance, testing one another's resolve. The male baboons form a defensive line on watch, while the wild dogs quietly observe before choosing to withdraw, avoiding an unnecessary confrontation. It is a dramatic battle of minds fought through unbroken eye contact instead of teeth and claws. An unexpected encounter unfolds as a baboon boldly charges forward, taunting and pressing into the wild dog pack. Instead of giving chase, the dogs appear momentarily confused, repeatedly backing away in the face of the confidence and audacity of an animal that would normally be considered prey. Under relentless pursuit from the aggressive wild dogs, the baboon troop scrambles up into the high branches to escape. From their safe vantage point above, the baboons roar and threaten in defiance, while the ground-bound hunters are left powerless, forced to watch from below. The rhinoceros is the armored tank of the savanna, built like a fortress and armed with a razor-sharp horn that radiates raw power, despite its overwhelming strength. Even this giant occasionally draws the attention of a cunning pack of African wild dogs. In these rare encounters, the pack relies on harassment tactics, circling relentlessly, probing for any sign of weakness. Yet a single thunderous charge or a forceful snort from the rhino is often enough to The footage captures a dramatic reversal of roles when the cunning leopard decides to become the hunter instead of the one hiding. Taking advantage of a moment when the wild dogs are busy enjoying their late lunch, the leopard bursts out of the bushes like an arrow, using its terrifying speed and raw power to shock the pack. Caught completely off guard by the sudden aggression of the spotted assassin, the wild dogs scatter in confusion. Abandoning the prey they had just hunted, they rush after the leopard, but the clever predator has already leapt up into the safety of it. Fierce circle of wild dogs closing in. The leopard doesn't choose to fight to the death, but instead displays its masterful escape skills. With one powerful surge of its body, it shoots straight up the vertical trunk of a tree, leaving behind the desperate barking and the pack's helpless leaps below. Open plains of the Okavango, a leopard has just taken down its prey when it suddenly finds itself facing a pack of aggressive wild dogs. Instead of backing off before the lone predator's power, the dogs move in with perfect coordination. Wildebeest, a stubborn giant with a powerful build and razor-sharp horns, is always a formidable challenge on the savanna thanks to its strong survival instinct. Yet even that raw power can be tested when it encounters one of nature's greatest tactical hunters, the African wild dog. What follows is a clash between brute strength and relentless strategy on one side stands a lone powerhouse capable of charging through danger, while on the other is a disciplined pack moving with incredible speed. Wildebeest are endurance athletes of the plains, built with powerful muscles and sharp curved horns ready to crush obstacles along their great migrations. They rely on sheer numbers and bone-shaking kicks to defend themselves in a savanna filled with danger. Yet even this living wall of flesh begins to tremble when the striped shadows of African wild dogs appear, launching a patient siege, searching relentlessly for even the smallest opening to bring their prey down. In a breathless chase, the wild dog pack works in flawless coordination to bring down a massive wildebeest. Using speed and relentless endurance, they strike again and again at vulnerable points, driving the exhausted animal to collapse powerless to fight back. Traffic grinds to a halt as a fierce battle erupts between a pack of wild dogs and a group of hyenas right in the middle of the roadway. Both sides charge into a violent clash over territory and prey, creating a scene of pure chaos as growls and barking echo across the area. The chase erupts in dramatic fashion as the pack spreads into formation, pressing in again and again to grind down the prey's stamina over long distances. Despite the wildebeest's overwhelming size and strength, it cannot break free from the layered encirclement that steadily closes in around it. Within the dense ring of attackers, the wildebeest stands firm like a living fortress, wielding its sharp horns and powerful rear kicks to repel every assault. Despite repeated attempts to probe for weakness and strike from the edges, the wild dogs find themselves unable to breach the solid defenses of the towering giant. Baboons are cunning gladiators of the wild, armed with razor-sharp canines and a boldness that ranks among the fiercest on the savanna. Yet their individual ferocity is constantly tested against the iron discipline of African wild dogs. What unfolds is a breathless standoff between adaptive intelligence and brutal collective strategy, where survival instincts are pushed to their absolute limits. Spreading out in formation with frightening persistence, the pack of wild dogs relentlessly pursues the antelope, draining its strength along a deadly path of exhaustion. Despite its impressive size and power, the prey ultimately collapses under the relentless layers of pressure, slowly becoming trapped in a turning itself into a living fortress. The antelope unleashes thunderous back kicks and swings its razor-sharp horns to drive away every wave of attack. Against this solid wall of defense, the pack of wild dogs, despite their team, if wild dogs represent discipline and speed, Then the hyena stands as the embodiment of brute strength and ruthless cunning, armed with jaws powerful enough to crush bone. The hyena is the ultimate opportunistic raider, always ready to snatch victory from the hard work of others. When these two predators collide, it becomes far more than a fight over a carcass. It's a fiery showdown between agile pack strategy. Out on the open savanna, the African wild dog pack locks onto a newborn buffalo calf as its next target, exploiting the calf's fragility and a fleeting lapse in the mother's guard. They apply relentless pressure, working methodically to isolate the vulnerable young. Though the mother fights back in desperation, the suffocating force of so many coordinated predators gradually overwhelms. A pack of 21 wild dogs closes in, relying on sheer numbers and iron discipline to separate the mother buffalo from her calf. Despite the mother's frantic and fearless defense, the pack's relentless wear-down strategy steadily drains the young calf's strength. In the end, the calf collapses under the brutal collective pressure of the coordinated hunters, bringing a Amid a cloud of dust, the chase suddenly turns into a fiery close-quarters clash. The lone hyena relies on sheer muscle as its shield, launching furious counterattacks against the wild dog's unpredictable hit-and-run tactics. But the overwhelming force of numbers quickly tightens the circle, forcing the stubborn fighter to retreat in fear and flee to save its life. Within the tightening circle of wild dogs, the lone hyena twists and turns, struggling to fend off lightning-fast attacks coming from every direction. Thick clouds of dust blur the scene, but they cannot hide the brutality of snapping jaws tearing at flesh. Realizing the crushing pressure of the pack is slowly draining its last hope, the hyena makes a life-or-death decision to break through the encirclement and dive straight into the deep water, gambling on one final chance. The African buffalo is a brooding giant capable of smashing through obstacles with its steel-hard horns. Rather than attacking head-on, the dogs use their agility to slip behind, relentlessly biting at the legs and belly to drain the buffalo's strength. On the open plains, a ferocious pack of wild dogs surrounds and savagely tears into a young calf. Though the mother buffalo fights back in desperation, she is powerless against the overwhelming numbers and calculated tactics of her attackers. The wild dogs relentlessly harass and provoke solitary male buffalo. The pack employs a guerrilla-style strategy, constantly circling, barking loudly, and snapping at the rear to wear them down and provoke frustration. In the Moremi Reserve, the pack of wild dogs works in perfect coordination, using precise cutting bites to separate a calf from its mother. Despite the mother's desperate attempts to drive them away, the relentless pressure slowly exhausts the calf until it is finally brought down. the waterhole, the wild dogs exploit the thick mud to trap and harass a Cape buffalo, closing in with relentless cutting bites. Though the massive animal fights back fiercely, it is gradually worn down by the pack's endurance. Faced with the ferocious charge of the wild dog pack, the massive herd of buffalo suddenly panics and breaks into a full retreat. Despite their overwhelming size, the buffalo choose withdrawal, surrendering the ground to far smaller predators. The honey badger is the savanna's ultimate daredevil, armed with near impenetrable skin and a ferocious fighting spirit. Even when surrounded by a wild dog pack, this lone warrior stands its ground with savage aggression. An amusing yet fascinating encounter unfolds between an African wild dog pack and the fearless honey badger. Despite being outnumbered, the tiny warrior snarls relentlessly, forcing the dogs to withdraw in stunned disbelief. The wild dog pack ultimately yields to the honey badger's sheer stubbornness. Even while surrounded, the badger fights back with relentless aggression, forcing the dogs to retreat. Under the scorching savanna sun, a wild dog pack lays siege, but is forced to concede. Fueled by raw aggression and zero fear, the honey badger compels the pack to retreat in frustration. The wild dog pack is left completely outmatched by the honey badger's ferocity and resolve. Despite being outnumbered, the badger snarls non-stop and launches defiant counterattacks. The honey badger stands as the savanna's most fearless renegade, protected by remarkably tough skin and driven by an almost reckless fighting spirit. Even when surrounded by a dense ring of wild dogs, this small but formidable warrior strikes back with fierce determination, forcing even the most relentless hunters to think twice. With seamless coordination and perfectly timed, strategic bites, the pack of wild dogs ultimately brings the massive wildebeest under complete control. Overwhelmed by their blistering speed and a relentless encirclement that leaves no escape, the giant soon begins to tire. Setting out in formation with frightening persistence, the pack of wild dogs relentlessly pursues the antelope, draining its strength along a deadly path of exhaustion. Despite its impressive size and power, the prey ultimately collapses under the relentless layers of pressure, slowly becoming trapped in a tightening maze of hunters with no escape in sight. Turning itself into a living fortress, the antelope unleashes thunderous back kicks and swings its razor-sharp horns to drive away every wave of attack. Against this solid wall of defense, the pack of wild dogs, despite their frantic attempts to surround and overwhelm, finds themselves completely powerless. The hunt stalls in a tense deadlock, where the prey's sheer resilience manages to hold off the relentless strategy of the pack. by splitting into smaller groups to surround and cut off escape routes with careful calculation. The pack of wild dogs completely neutralizes the prey's advantage in speed. This seamless coordination not only drains the target's strength with ruthless efficiency, but also highlights the overwhelming power. Out on the open savanna, the African wild dog pack locks onto a newborn buffalo calf as its next target. Exploiting the calf's fragility and a fleeting lapse in the mother's guard, they apply relentless pressure, working methodically to isolate the vulnerable young. Though the mother fights back in desperation, the suffocating force of so many coordinated predators gradually overwhelms her defense. It is a harsh reminder of nature's unforgiving law, where a life that has only just begun can be confronted. A pack of 21 wild dogs closes in, relying on sheer numbers and iron discipline to separate the mother buffalo from her calf. Despite the mother's frantic and fearless defense, the pack's relentless wear-down strategy steadily drains the young calf's strength. Amid a cloud of dust, the chase suddenly turns into a fiery close-quarters clash. The lone hyena relies on sheer muscle as its shield, launching furious counterattacks against the wild dog's unpredictable hit-and-run tactics. But the overwhelming force of numbers trapped within the tightening circle of wild dogs, the lone hyena twists and turns, struggling to fend off lightning-fast attacks coming from every direction. Thick clouds of dust blur the scene, but they cannot hide the brutality of snapping jaws tearing at flesh. Realizing the crushing pressure of the pack is slowly draining. The once peaceful waterhole suddenly erupts into chaos as two of the savanna's fiercest forces collide hyenas and wild dogs. Driven by thirst and the lure of an easy meal, the area transforms into a fiery battleground filled with menacing growls and thunderous snapping jaws. While the wild dogs showcase their hit-and-run tactics, the lion stands as the uncrowned king of the savanna, commanding overwhelming strength and unquestioned authority. Yet that dominance is constantly tested by the relentless harassment of African wild dogs, smaller predators, but fearless and extraordinarily tenacious. A lion can end a fight with a single crushing blow, while the wild dogs counter with guerrilla-style tactics and relentless endurance, turning the pressure back on a solitary king. This is more than a clash of power and intelligence. It is a dramatic showdown to determine who truly rules the wild. Stay with us as it unfolds. In a brutal moment that lays bare the harsh reality of nature, a male lion raids a wild dog den. Seizing the opportunity while the adults are away, the ruler of the savanna moves in to eliminate the pups, removing future competition before it has the chance to grow. There is no mercy here. The footage stands as stark proof of an endless war for survival, where top predators seek to destroy one another from the very beginning of life. In a heart-stopping rescue, the wild dogs push their team spirit to the absolute limit. When one member of the pack is seized by a lion, they do not scatter in fear. Instead, they turn back and charge in. Barking loudly, darting from multiple angles, they harass and distract the lion, creating a storm of chaos around it. That courage and flawless coordination force the predator to lose focus, opening a miraculous window of survival for their packmate, even in the jaws of death. In a bloody and highly charged act of retaliation, a pack of wild dogs surrounds and attacks a lioness and her cub. Long accustomed to being dominated by lions, the pack seizes this rare moment of numerical superiority, closing in and launching a relentless assault. The lioness fights desperately to shield her young, but the ferocity of the dogs turns the pursuit into a brutal and unforgiving battle of revenge. On the sun-scorched plains of Botswana, a fierce clash unfolds between a lion and a pack of wild dogs. Even when confronted with the overwhelming power of the King of Beasts, the dogs refuse to back down, moving in seamless coordination to encircle and harass their opponent. Amid swirling dust and relentless heat, the battle highlights a striking contrast between solitary strength and the refined precision of pack strategy. On the open plains of the Okavango, a leopard has just taken down its prey when it suddenly finds itself facing a pack of aggressive wild dogs. Instead of backing off before the lone predator's power, the dogs move in with perfect coordination, using sharp, piercing barks and constant snapping bites to surround and overwhelm their rival. Realizing the numbers are heavily against it, the leopard has no choice but to abandon the fresh kill and retreat up a nearby tree. From high above, it can only watch. Elephants are truly the uncrowned kings of the savanna, possessing both remarkable intelligence and overwhelming physical power. Encounters between them and African wild dogs unfold like a tense symphony of survival. While the pack may rely on bold numbers and harassment tactics to test smaller or vulnerable individuals, the matriarch responds with absolute authority, with ears spread wide and a thunderous the beast, a stubborn giant with a powerful build and razor-sharp horns, is always a formidable challenge on the savanna thanks to its strong survival instincts. Yet even that raw power can be tested when it encounters one of nature's greatest tactical hunters, the African wild dog. What follows is a clash between brute strength and relentless strategy on one side. With seamless coordination and perfectly timed, strategic bites, the pack of wild dogs ultimately brings the massive wildebeest under complete control. Overwhelmed by their blistering speed and a relentless encirclement that leaves no escape, the giant soon begins to tire. In the end, the powerful grazer collapses, defeated by the brutal efficiency and collective strength of these. With frightening persistence, the pack of wild dogs relentlessly pursues the antelope, draining its strength along a deadly path of exhaustion. Despite its impressive size and power, the prey ultimately collapses under the relentless layers of pressure, slowly becoming trapped in a tightening maze of hunters with no escape in sight. By splitting into smaller groups to surround and cut off escape routes with careful calculation, The pack of wild dogs completely neutralizes the prey's advantage in speed. This seamless coordination not only drains the target's strength with ruthless efficiency, but also highlights the overwhelming power of disciplined teamwork against the desperate bursts of a lone. 13. If wild dogs represent discipline and speed, then the hyena stands as the embodiment of brute strength and ruthless cunning, armed with jaws powerful enough to crush bone. The hyena is the ultimate opportunistic raider, always ready to snatch victory from the hard work of others. When these two If wild dogs represent discipline and speed, then the hyena stands as the embodiment of brute strength and ruthless cunning, armed with jaws powerful enough to crush bone. The hyena is the ultimate opportunistic raider, always ready to snatch victory from the After discovering that a leopard has killed one of their young, the wild dogs unleash a wave of ruthless fury. Overwhelmed by the pack's relentless encirclement and sheer numbers, the solitary predator is forced into a fearful retreat, vanishing into the thick brush in a desperate bid to escape. Confronted by a suffocating ring and the pack's relentless group assault, the leopard makes a narrow and fortunate escape. Though completely outnumbered, it seizes a split-second advantage in the terrain to launch a life-saving burst of speed. In the heart of the chaotic ring, the leopard unleashes a lightning-fast bite, instantly crippling one wild dog in a single decisive strike. Even as thunderous barks erupt and the rest of the pack lunges in a frantic attempt to rescue their fallen comrade, the solitary predator does not waver. With terrifying strength and unyielding resolve, the leopard fights off the surrounding assaults while clamping down with lethal force, reasserting its status as one of the wild's most formidable assassins. Trapped within the tightening circle of wild dogs, the lone hyena twists and turns, struggling to fend off lightning-fast attacks coming from every direction. Thick clouds of dust blur the scene, but they cannot hide the brutality of snapping jaws tearing at flesh. Realizing the crushing pressure of the pack is slowly draining its last hope, the hyena makes a life-or-death decision, break through the encirclement, and dive straight into the deep water, gambling on one final chance of survival. If the African wild dog represents discipline, then the hyena is the embodiment of brute force and cunning. Armed with bone-crushing jaws, the hyena stands as a lifelong rival, always ready to steal the hard-earned prize of the pack. Their encounters are not just fights over a carcass, but explosive clashes between coordinated strategy and terrifying resilience. Let's see which predator will truly dominate the savanna in this showdown. Along the damp riverbank, an unthinkable scene unfolds. A lion suddenly steps in to rescue a pregnant hyena from the tightening circle of wild dogs. As the exhausted hyena is relentlessly attacked by the aggressive pack, the arrival of the king of beasts completely shifts the balance of power. It may not have been an act of mercy, but the lion's intervention becomes an unexpected shield, allowing the hyena to escape death by mere inches. This is no longer a routine chase. Both sides collide head-on, trading bites and swipes like a full-blown boxing match. In the swirling dust, the pack relies on speed and agility to harass and overwhelm, while the lone hyena braces itself, absorbing the assault and striking back with raw, muscular power. In the end, fear takes over, and the hyena breaks away, scrambling to find an escape. Surrounded by a cloud of dust and hemmed in on all sides, the lone hyena fights back fiercely against snapping jaws coming from every direction. Under the suffocating pressure of overwhelming numbers, it has no choice but to retreat, plunging into the water in a desperate bid for one last chance at survival. Along the riverbank, the wild dog pack has just wrapped up a dramatic chase, bringing down a young antelope right in the water. But their victory is short-lived as the commotion draws in the true professionals of theft, the hyenas. A fierce battle over the carcass erupts in the rushing current, turning the scene into pure chaos, filled with snarls and white spray, exploding in every direction. One side fights to defend the hard-earned reward of teamwork, while the other unleashes brute force to seize it, laying bare the unforgiving laws of survival in the wild. In the end, the hyena clan overpowers the pack and claims the kill. At a quiet waterhole on the edge of the forest, a fierce confrontation erupts between the savanna's two most notorious gangs, the hyenas and the wild dogs. Drawn together by thirst and the promise of a meal, the watering hole quickly transforms into an arena of growls and thunderous bites. The wild dogs rely on speed and coordinated encirclement, while the hyenas stand their ground, using sheer brute strength as their shield. At the Simbambili Game Reserve, a fight over a rotting carcass quickly escalates into an all-out battle. The wild dog pack deploys speed and seamless coordination to encircle their rivals, while the hyenas fire back with brute force and their chilling, taunting laughter. The air grows thick with snarls and thunderous snaps, laying bare the sheer brutality that unfolds when two top predators clash face to face. Hares are true sprinting athletes, built with powerful spring-loaded legs that let them pivot sharply at speeds of up to 70 kilometers per hour. In a life-or-death showdown with African wild dogs, the most relentless predators of the wild, the hare relies not only on speed, but on sharp instinct and strategy. It launches into dramatic zigzag leaps, switching directions in an instant, forcing even the most seasoned pack hunters to struggle to keep up through those brutal high-speed turns. On one side stands the tireless endurance of the pack. On the other, explosive agility and split-second reflexes, together creating a heart-stopping chase where speed becomes the razor-thin line between life and death. In Simbavati, young wild dogs reveal their killer instincts early as they work together to surround a hare. Even though they are not yet fully grown, they move with surprising coordination, bringing the prey down and turning the hunt into a dramatic real-life lesson in survival. Across a forest blanketed in white snow, a dramatic chase unfolds between a pack of wild dogs and a fleeing hare. Against the frozen backdrop, the relentless hunters move in perfect coordination, closing in on the small prey as it darts and swerves in a desperate fight for survival. Beneath the dry brush, a lightning-fast hunt ends in the raw brutality of instinct. The moment the hare is caught, the pack shows no hesitation. Each wild dog lunges in immediately. Driven by collective force, they pull in opposite directions, and within seconds, the small prey is torn apart. Right on the asphalt roads of Kruger, a pack of wild dogs puts its ruthless coordination on full display as it corners a hare. In a flash, the killers surge forward together, yanking the prey in different directions and bringing the hunt to a brutal end in just a matter of seconds. The zebra stands as a symbol of speed, armed with a rear kick capable of delivering devastating force. When confronted by a pack of wild dogs, it does more than flee. It fights back with fierce determination. Though the dogs rely on relentless pursuit to exhaust their prey, a zebra can force its attackers to retreat with a single well-aimed strike, powerful enough to shatter a jaw. Surrounded by tireless predators, one precise kick may represent its only true chance of survival. Wildebeest, a stubborn giant with a powerful build and razor-sharp horns, is always a formidable challenge on the savanna thanks to its strong survival instincts. Yet even that raw power can be tested when it encounters one of nature's greatest tactical hunters, the African wild dog. What follows is a clash between Along the forest's edge, an aggressive pack of wild dogs charges forward, driving a herd of zebras away from contested ground. Faced with the predator's intensity and coordinated advance, the zebras choose to withdraw, avoiding an unnecessary and dangerous confrontation. It stands as yet another testament to the dominance wild dogs can assert, even over opponents far larger than themselves. Spreading out in formation with frightening persistence, the pack of wild dogs relentlessly pursues the antelope, draining its strength along a deadly path of exhaustion. Despite its impressive size and power, the prey ultimately collapses under the relentless layers of pressure, slowly becoming trapped in a tightening maze of hunters with no escape in sight. Turning itself into a living fortress, the antelope unleashes thunderous back kicks and swings its razor-sharp horns to drive away every wave of attack. Against this solid wall of defense, the pack of wild dogs, despite their frantic attempts to surround and overwhelm, If wild dogs represent discipline and speed, then the hyena stands as the embodiment of brute strength and ruthless cunning, armed with jaws powerful enough to crush bone. The hyena is the ultimate opportunistic raider, always ready to snatch victory from the hard work of others. When these two predators collide, it becomes far more than a fight over a carcass. It's a fiery showdown between agile pack. Out on the open savanna, the African wild dog pack locks onto a newborn buffalo calf as its next target, exploiting the calf's fragility and a fleeting lapse in the mother's guard. They apply relentless pressure, working methodically to isolate the vulnerable young. Though the mother fights back, a pack of 21 wild dogs closes in, relying on sheer numbers and iron discipline to separate the mother buffalo from her calf. Despite the mother's frantic and fearless defense, the pack's relentless wear-down strategy steadily drains the young calf's strength. In the end, the calf collapses under the brutal collective pressure of the coordinated hunters, bringing a tragic Amid a cloud of dust, the chase suddenly turns into a fiery close-quarters clash. The lone hyena relies on sheer muscle as its shield, launching furious counterattacks against the wild dog's unpredictable hit-and-run tactics. But the overwhelming force of numbers quickly tightens the circle, forcing the stubborn fighter to retreat in fear and flee to save. The leopard, a solitary phantom of the savanna, embodies refined precision and raw power, armed with elite hunting skills and the ability to vanish seamlessly into the shadows. Yet even this lone assassin must exercise caution when confronted by the iron discipline of an African wild dog pack, where individual brilliance is challenged by ruthless, coordinated pack tactics. The leopard, often harassed and driven off by wild dogs, now takes the initiative and goes on the hunt. Exploiting the moment when the pack lies in deep sleep after a long, exhausting day, it approaches silently, relying on flawless stealth. Beneath the tree, the wild dog pack attempts to steal the leopard family's hard-earned meal. Using their numerical advantage, the aggressive pack surrounds the scene and applies constant pressure, determined to force the mother leopard to abandon her prey. A heart-pounding escape unfolds as the leopard is caught in the deadly encirclement of a wild dog pack. Overwhelmed by their aggressive, coordinated tactics, the leopard is forced to sprint into the dense brush by the narrowest of margins, evading lethal bites in a desperate bid for survival. The warthog is the savanna's stubborn brawler, armed with razor-sharp tusks and a fearless, defiant nature. But that courage is pushed to its absolute limit when it falls into the sights of an African wild dog, pack ruthless ghosts of the plains that bring down prey through relentless siege tactics. A heart-pounding battle of wits unfolds. Can the warthog's tough, bristled armor save it from the jaws of the most disciplined hunters on the African continent? The wild dog pack fans out and tightens the noose, trapping the warthog amid clouds of savanna dust. The striped killers take turns striking and retreating, wearing their target down and forcing it into desperate, exhausting maneuvers. Face to face with death, the warthog lashes out wildly with its razor-sharp tusks, refusing to surrender to the ferocity of the relentless pack. The wild dogs seal off the burrow's entrance patiently, waiting for the warthog, the stubborn fighter, to emerge from the darkness. Inside, the warthog backs deeper into the den, bracing its razor-sharp tusks outward like a living shield in a final stand. Then, in a flash of speed and instinct, it bursts free from the burrow, escaping in a move that leaves the pack momentarily stunned. At the waterhole, the warthog is driven into complete desperation as the wild dogs close in for the final encirclement. With every escape route cut off, the stubborn fighter is ultimately overwhelmed, falling into the ruthless jaws of nature's most coordinated pack hunters. Under the scorching sun of the parched savanna, a lone warthog is pushed into a deadly corner as the wild dog pack tightens its lethal ring. Amid searing heat and swirling dust, the striped predators cut off every possible escape, turning the warthog's struggle for survival into a desperate last stand against relentless jaws and claws. The wild dog pack closes in repeatedly using harassment tactics to provoke their opponent, while the crocodile remains ominously still, displaying its deadly jaws. It is a nerve-wracking battle of wits between land-based special forces and a waterborne assassin unfolding right at the edge of survival. Across the parched savanna, the wild dog pack executes its brutal siege, with cold precision tightening the circle around the helpless warthog step by step. Striking in relentless rotation from every direction, they drain its strength and extinguish any hope of escape until the animal is left barely breathing beneath the unyielding pressure of its enemies. The waterbuck stands like a calm giant at the edge of danger, its thick, oil-coated coat allowing it to move confidently through the water. But that calm is often shattered by the piercing calls of African wild dogs, the tireless hunters of the savanna. When the chase begins, instead of exhausting itself on open ground, the waterbuck makes a bold survival choice. It charges straight into the deep marsh. In the water, it uses its towering build to hold its ground, facing off against a pack that hesitates at the thought of hidden predators like crocodiles. What unfolds is a nerve-wracking battle of strategy pack endurance versus the prey's instinct to choose the terrain that gives it the best chance to survive. The first round erupts in dramatic fashion between a fierce pack of wild dogs and a lone female waterbuck. Surrounded on all sides, she remains remarkably composed, using her height and solid build to shield her vulnerable areas. As the pack presses in with relentless pressure and probing bites, she fires back with raw strength, driving them away and breaking their circle. Round one ends in her favor. She successfully defends herself, forcing even the determined pack to pull back from what has become a living fortress in the water. The pack drives the waterbuck down toward the deep dam. Facing a tightening ring on land, the antelope makes a do-or-die decision, charging straight into the water to neutralize the pack's coordinated tactics. There, it plants its long legs firmly beneath the surface, turning the water into a defensive trench, while the dogs can only pace helplessly along the shore. It's a masterclass in strategy, a powerful reminder of how instinct and smart use of terrain can mean the difference between life and death against some of the most relentless predators in the wild. Standing on the razor's edge between life and death, it doesn't just defend, it's ready to lower its sharp horns and drive back any predator bold enough to charge. This is a breathless battle of strategy, where the pack's relentless persistence collides with the prey animal's instinctive, intelligent use of terrain to fight for survival. Under the scorching heat of the open savanna, a waterbuck summons every last ounce of strength in a stunning bid for survival, plunging into the water and attempting to drown its pursuer. In a moment of sheer desperation, it turns its massive frame into a weapon, using the water itself to strike back against the highly skilled pack of wild dogs. It's a dramatic reversal where the raw instinct to survive forces the prey to become the aggressor in a final defiant fight for its last chance at life. Fierce in the chase, yet deeply bonded as a family, African wild dogs are a powerful testament to the strength of unity. Let's not allow these remarkable warriors to vanish from the wild. If you found this video compelling, support our work by hitting like, sharing it with others, and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us spread a deeper appreciation for wildlife and the natural world. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next adventure.